Hello everyone, welcome to Scorcher Toys at Anymoon.com's review of Arcadia's 1/24 scale Garland toys. This review has been updated to include both the red Garland seen in the original Megazone23 and the Megazone23 11 version. You may also recognize the red version from Robotech, The Untold Story, where it was called the Modat 5. These are the only releases as of this video, with the red version debuting in July 2018 for 25,800 yen before tax. The Periwinkle version was a reward for crowdfunders that reached the 78,000 yen level. Do remember, you weren't just buying a toy, you were helping fund another sequel to Megazone23. You won't find either of these toys in stores. The regular release sold out quickly and the crowdfunding campaign is long over. So if you're into these toys, hit the secondary market or keep those fingers crossed for more repaints and some reissues. To buy just about anything else, head on over to Big Bad Toy Store through my campaign link in the comments. You'll get a great selection to browse while helping me be able to keep making these videos. Both toys come in the same box, but the crowdfunding version has a sticker on the front letting you know that this toy is special. The crowdfunding toy is attached to a second box that contains strike parts via a thick plastic ribbon. The strike parts can go on any toy, so I'll review those separately. Inside the Garland box, you get a Shogo figure in the riding position, a Shogo figure that always reminds me of Metallica's song One, a gun, which has an extension gimmick, and camera guard goggles for when the Garland needs to look tough. Behind the tray, you'll get screw covers and a flyer telling you where to install them. A flyer explaining that the toy is painted top to bottom, plastic and metal both, which makes it both beautiful and prone to scratching, and an instruction manual. I have a full scan up on Anymoon.com. For the retail release only, you also got an art book. Here's the art book the toy comes with. It's got a colored cover, inside of the cover, and the rear is also color. Everything else is black and white, but what's really cool about it is it has a nice comic book depicting Shinji stealing the original prototype, so that is pretty cool stuff. You also get the Shogo figure. Unlike the Yamato figure, Shogo can't stay in the motorcycle through transformation, so he's not articulated at all. He just has the head that's on a ball joint, so you can see there. Looks up, looks down, but just a little bit. Better left and right. Here is the Yamato version in contrast. Again, he had to have the articulation so he could stay in the bike. And so he had ankles and knees and stuff like that. The ability to bring the legs out and in. So obviously we're dealing with a much smaller vehicle, perhaps a little bit simpler as far as the rider figure is concerned. Then we have the actual toy itself, which is super cool in that I just picked it up and moved it on screen by grabbing it wherever I wanted. So it is rock solid, which is even more impressive given that it's made out of metal and is very, very heavy. Now, it's not obviously all made out of metal, but certainly the back of it is. Everything clasps together very securely. One little one build issue I have is that this front wheel towards the back develops a gap in it, but otherwise, everything very well tucked together, very solid, very tight. We've got some good paint work up on the gauges there. Nice handles, nice brakes. Very clean presentation of the Garland. Now, one of my continuing problems with all Garland toys is that they always seem to prioritize the appearance of the legs in slave mode, which makes them huge on the actual motorcycle. So here is the motorcycle from the side. You can see the wheel barely showing. Now the wheel does spin freely. The wheels in the front do spin, but they're just plastic. They're not made of rubber, which is a little strange given how much metal is here. You would expect them to go for that old school rubber feel too. But given that there's so little clearance between the ground and the leg, you can't really imagine anyone riding this as a motorcycle. So it's kind of a forward-only missile of the road, which not ideal. I'd love to see someone kind of slim down these legs, tuck them up a little bit higher so that the rider figure can look like they're riding a motorcycle. Now, here is Shogo, and he fits quite simply on there. You just put him on like so, and there. Now he is riding the motorcycle, and that is what that looks like. You can see, I can move this aside, but it generally stays in place pretty well. So there you go, Shogo on the motorcycle, stays on well, looks completely natural, and it's solid. So a huge win as far as Garland toys are concerned. This thing comes together tightly and looks great. 1/24 scale makes the Arcadia toy about 18 centimeters long in bike mode. The Yamato, which was roughly 1/15 scale, is about 25 centimeters long. The Arcadia toy, having a bunch more metal in it, is nearly the same heft as the Yamato toy, which is really impressive. The other impressive bit is a lot of the detail work that we found on the Yamato toy is also present here on the Arcadia toy. Things like translucent plastic bits in the front for the turn signals, in the back for the brake lights and the turn signals. All of that is retained and carried over, so you get a much more solid bike at a much smaller scale that has very equivalent detail work. The 11 version of the toy is just a repaint. There are no improvements to the mold to speak of, although I did have a build quality issue with my red toy where this flap is coming away from the windscreen due to probably some flashing. I don't have that problem on my 11 release, but that's probably just a unique build quality issue. You do lose some detail work going from one paint scheme to the other. You lose the black grips, the silver brakes, and the yellow headlight. Otherwise, this scheme is going to appeal more to some than others. You get gray tires, a blue tail light, and it's periwinkle in white, not really blue and white. You do have a rider figure. The rider figure has a purple neck. If you pop his head off, that's how you know you got the right Shogo. Probably doesn't make any sense that it's Shogo again. There's probably a different rider in the OVA, but that's what we got. You got the same gun that you got before too. No place to put the gun in bike mode, so we're just going to put that aside for now and talk about it more in maneuver slave mode. Definitely check out my full transformation guide. I want to end this review on a really strong note, so I'm going to begin the review of maneuver slave on a negative note. The flyer that comes with this toy says that Arcadia has painted the whole thing plastic, metal, regardless, to give it an overall more premium feel. And that might be true, and some people might really love that. But the downside of that is paint scratching, and there's going to be a lot of it, and Arcadia was acknowledging that with the flyer. And it's a real bummer to someone like me who likes to handle their toys. So you can see on the front of mine, I have paint scratched right there already. When my toy was in the box still, this paint had already begun scratching. So now as I transform it, it just flakes more and more off. If we look at the back of the toy on the knees, there's some paint scratching there. And really just anywhere, if I look really closely, I can probably find a paint flaw already. And obviously the more I handle this toy, the more I will find little paint scratching going on. So that to me is a genuine bummer. I wish that they hadn't gone that route. And again, some people are really gonna like it. They're gonna be like, hey, I love the fact that the paint matches everywhere because it is painted. They didn't leave it to the base plastic. But like I said, it's gonna create some durability issues. And that is a shame. Now, other durability issues are also present, but overall this thing is rock solid. So don't get too afraid by what I'm saying here. The front of this chest is glued on to the paint. We know that that doesn't work very well. So here you can see where the glue just ripped some paint off and fell off. The same thing happened with this hand here. Obviously I could apply a dot of glue to try to make sure that those things stay on. Overall, neither one of those is a real deal breaker for me. It's not a huge problem. From a fit and finish, the toy comes together in a way where I end up with some gaps and it feels like things should be tighter. Like it should be like this. But if I take my thumb and finger off, it expands out a little bit. So it's not quite locking together as perfectly as it should, but it's certainly still very enjoyable as it is. Continuing with the negatives, the toy does come with a little Shogo figure that can fit inside the compartment. Here you can see him. It's really bizarre in that he just sort of tabs into the top of the seat. So it's a really awkward way of doing things to sort of create the illusion that he can fit in there. Obviously, there's not much of a benefit to putting him in there. It's just, it's a weird way of compromising that they came up with. And I don't know that I would ever use that little Shogo. Now, one cool thing about this is it does give you the chance to see that they have painted on detail on the inside of that area. So that's a nice little touch. But otherwise, this little guy, nothing close to what we saw with Freeing's E equals X Garland. The one thing they seem to pull off better than Arcadia did, or Yamato certainly, which tucks in pretty nicely the Shogo figure within the vehicle. So this, I guess better than nothing, but just barely in my mind. On to the positives, starting with the fact that you can pop open this cowl in the back without having to shimmy forward the whole section, which really wasn't the case with the Yamato toy. You can see I've still got stub Shogo in there. Poor stub Shogo. Now, articulation is the biggest strong suit of this toy. It is a lot of fun to play with. And that starts at the head, which is on a double ball joint. You can rock it back and forth. Looks good. Arm, you could spin it all the way around. Comes out at the shoulder, and then this piece here can pivot out of your way. The whole arm mechanism twists, which I'm not really thrilled with, but once you get used to it, you can use it to your advantage for some poses. Now, underneath the shoulder, there is a twist point there, and the double jointed elbow we've all come to love and appreciate. So there's a joint there and a joint in the forearm. So here's that extension, and then up front, to get you better than 90 degrees of articulation, which is always good to see. Now, there is a transformation mechanism here you can use to your advantage too. So you can bring the shoulder down to get a further reach. Then we have the arm, which has an extension at the wrist to get you a little bit better articulation there. Fist, ball joint. Oops, this is that damaged fist we talked about before. And then we have the individually articulated fingers and the thumb, I'm not crazy about it. All right, so there you go. All good there. Moving down, also notice that I've been playing with this toy's arm for a little while here, and this piece hasn't popped off because it's nice and solid, so it's all good. Moving down, we have the legs, which are very impressive. You can come all the way back. You can come all the way forward. And you can rock out and in. There's a twist point right below. Nice range of movement there. Then you have the knee, which is a double jointed knee, which you can see I've scraped some paint because of it, but you can come all the way back and all the way back. Look at that. That is a crazy range of movement. And then we have the foot. The only thing the foot doesn't do is twist. Otherwise, you can rock it out. You can rock it in. You can angle it out either direction. It has an individually articulated heel, individually articulated toe, and it's a little stiff, but there's also a rocking joint in there. So you can do all sorts of fun things with the feet, the hips, and the knees, which gives you crazy lower body articulation that leads to a lot of fun poses. The upper body, again, with the ability to shimmy those shoulders forward and back, and all the other things you could do with the arm. This toy is a lot of fun to handle. Here we have the crowdfunding version of the toy in slave mode. Looks pretty cool. Again, gonna be subjective paint-wise. Toy comes with a gun. Gun gives you the opportunity to go pew, 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 which is always fun. You can just slide that gun right into the hand. It will grip it nice and firm. Some people are starting to experience looseness on the shoulders there. Usually you can get in there and tighten things up with a little floor polish or super glue, or there are numerous ways you can go about that. Fortunately, my toy brand new, nice and stiff out of the box. And this toy has so much articulation, you can actually pull off the two hands holding the gun pose, which is super cool. Here is the two-handed firing the gun pose, but it might not be aggressive enough for you. So maybe you want to install what I call the battle visor. It's the camera guard goggles, according to the instructions. Here is that head. You can see there's just two tiny little peg spots where that visor goes in. We can just put a toothpick in there, push forward, and we can get that visor to pop off. There you can see the lens detail behind it. Here is that optional visor that comes with the toy. We're going to go ahead and install that. Get that nice and pressed into place. Makes for a slightly more aggressive look. I can go ahead and pop that into position. And there you go. Now, maybe a little bit more aggressive look for your Garland. Some final thoughts and some scale comparisons for you. Overall, this toy is a lot of fun to handle. I wish they didn't go the all painting version and made it more the fun playing version. Paint chipping is going to be a concern, and you should just know that. If that's going to really bother you, then you probably want to avoid this toy. Otherwise, it's solid, hopefully long-term durability wise. Hopefully things don't get too loose, and if they do, hopefully you can access that joint and figure out a way to tighten it back up. I enjoyed handling this toy a lot, especially in comparison to the other Garland toys I have handled. It definitely stood apart from the crowd and is very easy for me to recommend to any Megazone23 fan or any fan of transforming motorcycles in general. If you're just out there shopping for toys, 25,800 yen puts you in the range of a lot of competitive products. So there might be something a little more up your alley that would have a few less durability and build issues for you to weigh against. Otherwise, I really like this toy. I think you should check it out. Check out anymoon.com for my full article. Find me on Facebook. And as always, thanks for watching.